Atlyss was featured in Iron Pineapple's most recent Playing Souls-likes You've Never Heard Of video, and I was pretty intrigued when I first saw it. Initially, it seemed like a game where I checked out the demo in case I liked it, but probably wouldn't even finish the demo. That very much was not the case, and I ended up loving the demo. I played it for around 6 or so hours before deciding to join the Patreon to play the Steam build and keep in with the updates as they come out, since the itch demo won't be updated. Since then, I played it for around 12 hours in the past few days, and I'm still having a great time. I knew off the bat that I wanted to do some sort of challenge run for this game, if for no reason other than saying that playing it was for work, but I wasn't exactly sure what to do. My initial idea was rock toss only, which seemed like it would end up tedious, so instead I wanted to do skills only. But once again, I was worried that would get tedious, mostly because running in circles waiting for cooldowns and mana to restore, so as a compromise, I figured not using weapons would make for the most interesting and fun run. That way I can still punch things if I run out of rocks early on, or if I'm waiting for mana to restore, doing very low damage, but I also can't use skills that rely on weapons, like multi-shot or venom strike. I think that's a fair trade-off and will make for the most interesting run. Also, obviously the full game isn't out, so my goal for this run will be to complete all currently available quests. To start off, I'm making an imp character for the Siphon Leech ability, just for a bit more damage early on, especially since the other race abilities can be found as scrolls in the hard dungeon later, so as useful as Alacrity would be for a free spellcast or Inner Focus for a guaranteed crit, I can just get those later, and Siphon Leech will be useful early on. The recharge time is surprisingly long, but it is a healing ability too, so it kinda makes sense. Either way, my first goal is to do the opening quests. First off is a warm welcome, which just involves exploring the first area. I had guitars equipped for a bit just for their jump attack movement, but I decided against even having them equipped at all pretty quickly. The reward for the starting quest is 30 gold, which I immediately use on 10 rocks for the rock toss ability, then begin the Ridding Slimes quest, which just involves killing 10 slimes and getting a few of their drops. I don't have rock toss yet, so this just involves punching slimes. Luckily, they're weak enough that it's not too much of an issue. For my first level from killing slimes, I decided that Recovery and Siphon Leech were a bit more important than Rock Toss for now, just because Siphon Leech is infinite if the cooldown is a bit slow, and Recovery is the main method of healing through the whole game. Siphon Leech even one-shots slimes right now, which is really nice. I pretty quickly get everything I need to finish the slime quest and get the quest rewards, then spend my stat points on strength for the punch damage, since I can respec once magic is my main damage type, and that won't be until level 10. I buy a bunch more rocks and decide to head into the Catacomb dungeon for the easy difficulty run, since I have 2 quests to complete in here. Communing Catacombs just involves getting near the end of the dungeon, and Night Spirits requires killing 8 lesser wisps and 5 greater wisps, neither of which are threatening at this point at all. Mini-Geists are a bit threatening, but parrying stuns them for a while and they're very easy to parry. I level up pretty early in the dungeon and use my skill points on Rock Toss, which will be my main source of damage for quite a while, even if punching is nearly as effective for these early areas. Rock Toss does also scale off of strength, so I use my attribute points for that as well. Tarspawn are the only other notable enemy in the dungeon, and they're just slightly stronger slimes. They can be annoying in conjunction with other enemies, mostly because they have really long reach, but that won't really be an issue until the hard mode version of the enemy, Hell Slidges. On top of that, they're just as easy to parry as the Geists, so they won't be an issue for now. To be entirely honest, not much notable happens in the dungeon. Some throwing rocks at ghosts, some punching, some Siphon Leech to restore a bit of health, and I get through no problem. The easy dungeon is definitely easy, especially compared to the harder dungeons later. You can use recall as soon as you attune the sigil and just leave, but I wanted to see the dungeon through just for a bit more experience and equipment to sell. There are these Beamos-looking obstacles, but they're really not a threat if you just stay behind them or move somewhat quickly. I did find a Spire Scroll, which is an ability that does magic damage and shoots 5 spires out of the ground that all do damage to enemies. So I suppose it's a good thing I stuck through the dungeon, even if that's a pretty common scroll in the first 2 levels of the dungeon. Selling most of the gear gives me plenty of money for a lot of rocks, and I happen to pick up enough Geist Collars and Ghost Dust to immediately complete Sally's Ghostly Goods quest for a bit of extra experience and money. The next quest is Eel Terrace, which includes going to the Eel Terrace and killing 15 Slimex, a slightly stronger slime variant. Luckily, 2 rocks take out each Slimex no issue, and Siphon Leech makes it even easier. 15 Slimex go out no problem. Completing that quest unlocks the Rattlecage Rage quest, completing a normal difficulty dungeon, Huntin' Hogs, killing 20 mech boars in a new area, and the Diva Must Die quest, which is taking on a boss in the Eel Terrace. To get the Diva to spawn, you just need to take out a few slime mechs over to the left of the entrance, and eventually the Diva will spawn with a few tower spawn. My first playthrough led me to believe that this boss would be at least a little bit difficult, but Rocktoss genuinely made it a joke, and it's barely worth talking about. That unlocks the Cleaning Terrace quest, which is just killing 20 slime mechs, and it's just more of the same. Luckily, I found a shield during this, which gives a small chance to block a hit even if you're not actually blocking. Huntin' Hogs ended up being a bit more difficult of a quest just because of how fast the mech boars are. Generally, you can just parry them pretty easily, but when you have 3 of them chasing you at once, it can get a bit hairy. Just being a bit careful makes it pretty easy to take care of them, but being careless for a moment can easily lead to your death. The quest got me to level 10, which unlocks classes, meaning I can respec to be pure mystic, changing all of my strength stat points to magic stat points, and getting a few new abilities, such as Flux Bolt, which will end up being my main attack for most of the rest of the run, a bolt of magic that multi-hits when striking an enemy, Flux Spear, which pierces but does very little damage and is made pretty obsolete by Flux Bolt having splash damage, and Cross, which explodes and decreases the magic resistance of the enemies it hits. It's kinda useful but costs a lot of mana, especially at higher levels, so I'll end up not using it for long. I also finally unlocked Spire. I accidentally sold my mech boar spears before completing the quest, so I'll have to get more of those later, but for now I want to do something other than grind mech boars forever. We now have the Keep Within quest, which is just going to the Crescent Keep area and attuning 2 sigils. This does involve quite a few combat encounters, one to get to the second floor of the keep, one to open one of the 2 branches we need to follow, and several along either of the 2 branches. A lot of new enemies are introduced here too. Mouths, which spit poison and are really annoying, Blightwood, which shoot easily dodgeable magic projectiles and have a short range slam, Whizboars, which are mech boars but with magic instead of charging, golems who punch you and occasionally shoot stone spikes, and mini golems who shoot lasers at you that can be parried for some reason. I was mostly relying on Spire to get through these combat encounters, which is good for groups and big enemies since individual enemies can hit multiple spires, but it really doesn't do that much damage, and I think primarily relying on Flux Bullet would have made these encounters easier. Either way, I was still able to get through relatively easily, especially considering one of the combat encounters can be skipped entirely by just dashing through before the gate fully closes. I did use Cross a little bit, but the decrease in resistance really wasn't worth it. The Mana Flow skill is extremely useful since it increases the rate at which mana is restored, and mana is obviously the primary resource we use for damage. Completing that quest unlocks Ancient Beings, which is just killing 10 of both types of golems and collecting a few golem gems, which are dropped pretty commonly by both. At some point, I think after getting to level 10, the Voice of Zul'Naruda quest is unlocked, which is just beating the boss of the normal dungeon. There is no boss of the easy dungeon, but normal and hard have bosses that we'll have to defeat to finish this run. I guess that means it's finally time to do both Rattlecage Rage and the Voice of Zul'Naruda. Once again, I was using primarily Spire, which is actually pretty good for this dungeon since it one-shots the wisps, higher level wisps being called toxins and miasmas. It does decent damage to the Geists, no more mini-Geists in this normal dungeon, since they move into the spires while trying to reach you. It's also nice for the Death Gels, the next level of slimes, since they tend to clump up while chasing you and Spire can hit basically the whole group. After taking out all but one enemy, punching it to death usually gives a good amount of time for mana to restore for the next wave, so I took to doing that for pretty much the rest of the game. I could have used more mana restoration consumables, but I just didn't for basically no reason. They're cheap and common, but I just decided not to, I guess. Enemies can spawn with modifiers, just like equipment, and some of them can be really annoying. Magical are only notable because they resist our main damage type, but Guardian and Lively are both really annoying since they both effectively just have more health. Killer do more damage, but that usually doesn't matter since not getting hit is kind of the main goal. Zul'Naruda is pretty easy, honestly, though it does have a lot of health, so the fight takes quite a while. The fight took me about 5 minutes, but I also mostly just punched him instead of using my magic. I conserved the magic because a few enemies spawn in the middle of the fight, 2 Geists and 2 Toxins, and continue to spawn through the rest of the fight. Luckily, they don't pose too much of an issue and ended up mostly just being annoying, and the fight went mostly smoothly. Zul'Naruda can be annoying, but he only has a few attacks. His 3 most common attacks are a melee slap, which can just be parried to completely nullify, a weird spinning projectile thing which is easy to dodge at a distance, but if he's right on top of you, it's best to parry as it spawns and then hold block until it moves past you, For the final common attack, he dodges backwards and fires 3 projectiles at you that have a lot of tracking, and it's really annoying to dodge regardless of your distance. You basically can't dodge it if you're on top of him, but as long as he doesn't jump backward into a wall, that won't really be an issue. In the second phase, he'll occasionally use a laser after teleporting away, but you can just block and dodge out of the way very easily. After beating Zul'Naruda, the Purging the Undead quest is available, which is just taking out a bunch of enemies that we find in the normal difficulty Catacombs. 50 toxins, 40 geists, 30 death gels, and another incarnation of Zul'Naruda. It took me about 45 minutes to do, but the quest is literally just going through the normal Catacombs a few times, so it's not really worth going over in detail. On the bright side, going through it is now slightly easier because of the slightly higher level. Consumed Madness is a little bit more interesting since it's going through the hard catacombs rather than the normal catacombs, and after getting to level 16, you unlock the Eradicating the Undead, which is exactly the same as Purging the Undead, but with the higher level versions of the enemies, in this case, Miasma, Poltergeists, and Hell Sludges. Each difficulty of the dungeon has its own layouts too, but it's kind of hard to communicate that over a video like this. There's a hard mode layout that I didn't get while recording that requires you to not use a key on the first locked door you come across to get a bit of extra loot, and I forget every single time. There's also a layout with a locked door in the main room and a locked door in one of the first combat rooms, but if you use the key you find in the combat room in the main room, you literally can't clear the whole dungeon, meaning it's impossible to complete the Consumed Madness quest without restarting the dungeon. I only made that mistake once, thankfully. Despite the dungeons just being going through a bunch of combat rooms and being slightly repetitive, the combat is fun enough that it doesn't really feel repetitive, and I enjoy going through the dungeons despite how samey it can end up feeling. Without fighting the boss, Consumed Madness only took about 10 minutes, so the dungeons are pretty short too. The boss, Lord Colossus, is very similar to Zul'Naruda, but with a few key differences. The spinning projectile is actually a circle of several spinning projectiles. It's way faster, and he doesn't get stunned for nearly as long when he gets parried. He also has more health, obviously. Eventually, I learned that almost exclusively spamming Flux Bullet was my most effective combat strategy, and the boss became slightly easier. Eradicating the Undead is the final quest available in the beta right now, and that's just doing a few more hard dungeons, which I'm going to go ahead and do off camera because it's really just the same thing again, but I do have an idea for how to round out this video without it ending on an anticlimax. There is one more dungeon in the game. It's not done because, this is a beta. The only dungeon that's actually complete. Also, I just woke up. Sorry if my voice is weird. I haven't talked today at all. But there are no quests tied to this dungeon. The dungeon is a work in progress. However, it is significantly harder than the Catacombs dungeon, especially the boss. So let's give it a shot, I guess. I don't think I've beaten the boss. Okay. Also, there's been an update. I forgot to mention when the update was. I should probably go over a few things that I didn't really go over in detail in the script. So there was an update to increase Flux Bolt's max level to 7. It also increased its base damage. They also increased Flux Spear's base damage, but it's still pretty awful. My final loadout ended up being Recovery, Alacrity, and Inner Focus. Alacrity is a free spell cast with no cast time. And then Inner Focus is 100% crit chance. I found these as scrolls in the hard difficulty Catacombs dungeon. And then for the Mystic skills, I went with Flux Bolt, which is the best damage that we have, full stop. Maxed out Mana Flow because more mana recovery is good. Prism because I didn't have anything else. And Imbue because it increases our damage for a little bit. And then here are my stat points and everything. The update added this dungeon officially. You could access it by getting out of bounds beforehand, but now it's actually in the beta. It also added enchanting gear, so you go talk to an NPC, and she enchants your gear for you if you give her materials to enchant. So I spent a while trying to get decent enchantments on everything, either magical or mana flow. So magical increases our magic damage when we have that item equipped. And then mana flow increases mana restoration. No. Wait, what is it called? Mana font. That increases our maximum mana, not mana recovery, unfortunately. I would prefer mana recovery, but... Okay, so there are a lot of new enemies, or enemies that are currently exclusive to this dungeon. Namely, these mushrooms are one, the deadwood are one, but the deadwood are basically just a stronger variant of the blightwood. The mushrooms are really, really fast and do a lot of damage. They're really annoying. Oh my god, I am doing terribly right now. Jeez. And then there's also Colossi, which are basically just golems, but stronger. Yeah, enemies can have the... I already went over that, actually. The, like, lively and whatever modifiers. I also learned, basically after the run, that the F1 slots down here can be used for items. So, I should probably be using those to heal more often, and to restore my mana and stuff. I was going to actually buy more consumables before entering here, but I just kind of forgot. So yeah, I don't have a weapon equipped, obviously. That's the whole point of this run. So I do very little damage when I punch, but it's a great opportunity to restore health, and I tend to do it at the end of a wave. If I am able to, but I'll probably avoid doing that in this dungeon just because of how much health things have. Just running around for a second at the beginning of the next wave is usually easier, or rather, more effective. Carbuncles. I forgot about carbuncles. They used to be incredibly annoying because I had a 25% crit chance on their attacks, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but they changed it. So I can't imagine that was intentional. They have basically a cross spell and, like, what is effectively Flux Bolt. The one that explodes decreases our magic resistance for a short time. I should heal. Yeah, okay, monoliths, not colossi, sorry. But they're basically just stronger golems. I should let my mana restore. For whatever reason, these guys have the punch and the spin, but they have spire instead of like the rock shoot or whatever. The spin can't be parried, but the punch can, and I have no idea why. No idea what's up with that. Prism is basically just like a shield that will reduce our damage for a short time. And then I should probably be using Alacrity on Prism or Imbue or something. I don't know. Oh, I did actually come into this dungeon a little bit earlier in order to get these and this. Just because I didn't have good gear in those slots. There's also mithril stuff in the shops. That's part of the beta. That's not actually in the demo as far as I know. The itch demo. But I was enjoying this game a lot, so I figured I would join the devs Patreon because I wanted to play more of the game. And obviously that's not really available. So Alacrity, that, and... See, we can get decent damage. Obviously, our build is entirely based on mana and cooldowns, but... I mean... Obviously, still very, very strong. If I had, like, a bell, which is, like... So each class has at least 2 weapons. Bandit has bows and guitars. Mystic has bells and wands, or whatever. And the bells are slower and stronger. The wands are faster but weaker, obviously. If I had a bell, this build would be insane. Mystic seems a lot stronger than Bandit. My main is a Bandit, just because I like the movement and I find it more fun. But Mystic does seem just stronger in a lot of ways, because I do like probably more damage with each cast on this character than I do on my main Bandit. But oh, and then Warrior has three weapons to it. It has oh my god, it has sword and shield. It has polearm or like spear, and then it has heavy melee. One of the heavy melee is a halberd, or a bardiche, and that is, I don't know why it's not considered a polearm. I guess it's because it's like, I don't know, because polearms are like spears in this game, right? So I don't know. I guess it makes sense, but I was really excited to use a polearm, and I got like polearm mastery and everything, and I ended up having to respec because I spec'd into polearms instead of heavy melee. Anyway, yeah, I do have a shield equipped. That's not a weapon, obviously. And I specifically have that equipped just because it gives me a little bit of extra boost that I wouldn't get otherwise, and it's not really against the rules of the run. And at this point, I'll take any bonus that I can get. This run was not easy, but it was a lot easier than I was expecting. And I imagine this will be either a lot more effective or a lot less effective in the full game. And I'm very, very excited to try out this run in the full game. I will absolutely be doing that once this comes out, because I am very much enjoying this game, and I will take any opportunity or reason to play it that I can. But yeah, so I'm probably playing more like a bandit than an actual mystic right now, just because I kind of need to stay mobile. Because I don't really, like, I have Prism, but because I can't attack without mana, I'm kind of primarily using my mana offensively rather than defensively. And on a normal mystic build, you would, use those interchangeably. The glass cannon mystic would be pretty fun, I think. Oh god, I made a terrible mistake. I'm poisoned. Oh yeah, the maws and mouths do poison. Fire is arguably more dangerous. I really wish dashing like decreased your fire damage a little bit, or rather decreased your fire status a little bit. Either decreased its damage temporarily, or even decrease the amount of time it takes to go away. It only lasts like 5 seconds anyway, but I don't know. I feel like some interaction like that would be nice and would distinguish it from poison in a significant way, because right now it's just kind of a different element poison. I actually found a way out of bounds in the first room of this dungeon as well as this room. I don't know if it's possible to do either of them as a mystic, but that's kind of a moot point, because the dev actually... I posted a video of how to get out of bounds in the official Discord server, in the Patreon only area of the official Discord server. And the dev ended up putting a ceiling in the very next update, in like the hot patch or hot fix that they were doing to like rebalance this dungeon a little bit. That decreased the carbuncle crit chance and decreased the lively enemy health pool and everything. And they ended up adding that ceiling, so you can't get out of bounds at all now. Or, well, you can. Oops. You can get out of bounds, but it's very precise. I don't know how to do it yet. And someone ended up DMing me that it was possible. Hopefully the dev doesn't end up watching this video. But somebody ended up DMing me that it was possible because they didn't want to put it in the Discord server, because they didn't want the dev to see it, to patch it, because it's really fun to get out of bounds, and it makes it a lot easier and faster to grind gear from the boss, because this is a very long dungeon. Oh, also dying. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the script, but the only penalty for dying is that enemies that you haven't killed yet will have their health restored. So enemies that are dead will stay dead in encounters where you end up dying in. Yeah, it's literally just that enemies will have their health restored. So like if I died right now and I came back, it would just be 1 carbuncle at full health rather than 2 carbuncles and a maw. There we go. Easy. So yeah, the way I found out of bounds in this area... Oops. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's possible as anyone other than the bandit. But you come up here, and then you like wall jump off of this, and then bounce between those, get up on top of that one, jump on top of this one, and then you can get out of bounds from there. But like I said, there's a ceiling now, unfortunately. As fun as it was to break the game like that. And then you could either go straight to the boss. I also found a way out in the very first room, but our goal right now is to get in here, and you can literally just jump over that gate and skip this entire combat encounter right here. But yeah, I don't know. That was fixed. And like, it makes sense that they fixed that. But it is unfortunate, because getting out of bounds is genuinely really fun in games like this, in games generally. And I don't know, as long as it has to be intentional to do it, I feel like there's no harm in leaving in stuff like that. If it's not like, if you can accidentally get out of bounds, or it is somehow game breaking, then yeah, it makes sense. But when it's a dungeon that you're going to be doing over and over, I don't personally see any reason to patch something like that out if I ever made a game, but I don't know, not my game. So I understand why they would want to. I'm not like saying that they shouldn't have, but I personally would have preferred if they hadn't, because it was just a fun thing to do. I don't know. There are dyes here, and I did grind a little bit for multiple dyes, because I think the red dye looks best on this character, and let's be honest, cosmetics are like 99% of my power, in real life and in the game. But For some reason, this armor set doesn't get dyed properly. Like, this armor has green dye on it, and it just doesn't look like it at all. I genuinely have no clue why. In fact, it has green dye on it because I wanted to put red dye on it, but it was saying that I already had red dye applied. So I used green dye to see if it would let me, like, use red dye after that, because it would make the dye not red. But then obviously it didn't work, and I no idea why. Yeah, so the Deadwood is probably the least dangerous enemy in this dungeon. So I suppose this is a good time to allow my... They don't get hurt by the traps? That's annoying. They should definitely get hit by the traps. Anyway, good time to let my mana restore a little bit. Oh good, monoliths. Monoliths aren't particularly dangerous. Their spires are really easy to dodge, but they do quite a bit of damage, especially compared to golems, so they can be a bit dangerous. This dungeon is actually at the end of one of the 2 branches that we had to get in the Keep Within quest. So if you get the beta and don't know where this is, because it did take me a little bit to find it, especially after coming off of the demo where there's nothing here. Yeah, that's where that's at. Here we go. As far as I know, this is the best bow in the game. This is what I have on my bandit, the serrated longbow. And I also got a tome of greater experience, which I'm absolutely going to use. You can't buy those, but you can buy tomes of experience and tomes of lesser experience. So, makes it a little bit faster to grind a little bit. Especially if you have a bunch of money that you don't really know what to do with and don't feel like gambling. I think I've died less on this character than I have on my bandit, and it kind of makes sense because obviously I played this character second, so I'm going to be better at the game, even if I'm doing a challenge run, quote unquote. But it also leads me to believe that this is just like a good build, especially if you put a wand or a bell on top of it, like, I don't know, or a scepter. I think they're called scepters, not wands. But yeah, like Mystic is just very strong. I also have like a normal Mystic, but I think that Mystic is like level 14. I haven't played on it a super bunch. Maybe 13, I don't know. Point is, it's not very far in the game. I'm much, much farther with this character because I've been almost exclusively playing this character since I started this run because I really want to get a video out on this because I think this is a really good game and I think it'll be a very fun and somewhat unique video. I don't know. I don't expect anybody else to make challenge runs on this game for quite a while. Eventually, I kind of want to do fist only because there are ways to increase your fist damage. And like you can put a lot of warrior skills like lethal strike on your fist. Inner focus will give you a guaranteed crit, which gives you quite a bit of damage. Like on the fist right now, because I don't have my strength upgraded at all, it would do, I think, like 10 damage. But, you know, instead of like 2 to 4, that's a pretty big jump. Also, the fact that you can dash while casting is very, very nice. I don't know, I'm sure that's intentional, because dashing doesn't cancel any skills, and I think that's really fun, and adds a pretty interesting dynamic. It makes you want to focus more on movement. You can tank in this game. I have a warrior build, but I prefer the polearm and sword and shield over heavy melee, despite the heavy melee weapons just being cooler. Just because I don't like tanking in this game. You don't have to tank with heavy melee, but it definitely feels like it's kind of balanced around tanking. So I've been primarily relying on polearms, like I said, and sword and shield. Anyway, point is, I have ADHD and I'm very much hyper-focusing on this game right now, and I am loving it. This is a great game. Also, the enchanter, or enchantress, I guess, the NPC that enchants your gear is definitely trans, and I will 100% be showing her at the end of this video because I completely forgot to even mention her in the script, and I love her because she was part of the beta, so she's not actually available in the itch demo, but I have never seen a more trans character in my life. Like, her name's Vivian, for God's sake. If she's cis, then I'm cis, you know what I mean? Every single trans woman who I have shown Vivian to has 100% agreed that she is definitely trans. Right now, this dungeon has only one layout, so this is our final combat encounter, aside from the boss. They made a pretty drastic change to the boss. I don't remember if I said it. Said what that change was in the update, in the hotfix that they did, that added the ceilings that removed my ingenious shortcut through the dungeon. But the boss has ads, and those ads are carbuncles. And 2 carbuncles spawn in the middle of the fight, and then they kept respawning. But the patch, the hotfix, actually prevented them from respawning. So they nerfed carbuncles in multiple ways for that. And the carbuncles made the boss so incredibly difficult. Like, it's still really hard. It is still by far the hardest thing in the game. But it's not, like, insanely difficult anymore, which I appreciate. And is why I even wanted to try it for this challenge. If the carbuncles still respawned, I don't think I would try it, because I hadn't beaten that on my bandit. I haven't tried the boss on my bandit since the hotfix, but yeah, I never beat the pre-patch version of the boss on my bandit, so I would not be trying on this if they had not made that change. So yeah, like I said, you can't parry that spin attack for whatever reason. Obviously you can't parry the spires, but you can parry that punch, and it feels like the same timing that the golems have. But like I said, for some reason you just can't parry the spin. No idea why. Luckily, if I die now, I don't have to run through the entire dungeon again. There is like a little shortcut that they added to make running through the dungeon, if you die later on, a little bit faster. Oh my god, no! My shield broke! Get off of me! Okay, well, I'm almost definitely gonna die, so I might as well try to take out as many... Oh, I got hit by cross, so my magic resistance is decreased, if you saw that. Ooh, what the... I have no idea what I got hit by. But yeah, there is this warp point here that takes us about halfway through the dungeon. I probably should have just used a healing item, to be entirely honest. My brain just doesn't factor in consumables ever. Is that a... It's a killer carbuncle. That's more physical damage, and it does magic damage. Does that mean it does physical damage on its attacks now? I have no idea how that works. The killer enchantment is more physical damage, right? So, I don't know. I should be using my other skills to make this go by faster. But generally, when it's just a bunch of normal mobs, spamming Fluxbolt tends to be the best choice. But also when I have Imbue and I'm just not using it for whatever reason. I will never understand why mushrooms are so fast. Oh my god. Okay, so blocking does cancel your skill casts. I kind of forgot about that. Which is unfortunate. Yeah, this is why I don't try to use my other skills with normal mobs, because the damage increase is really just not worth it when you're being swarmed by 10 mushrooms. It'd probably help if I like actually paid attention and like tried to parry and everything, but that's a lot of effort. There we go. There we go. Easy. I say as I died 3 times in that one combat encounter. Alright, I have a strong feeling that this will not go well, so I'm gonna actually put on these on the rest of my hotbar, just in case. So yeah, we could leave the dungeon right now. We've technically completed the dungeon, but the boss is here. So for this first phase, the ideal strategy is to just block things as they come. At least that's what I did on my bandit. And it usually, oh my god, it works if you don't get hit by those. So I definitely should have been closer. That shockwave, you need to jump it, oh my god, in the second phase. However, in the first phase, it's not quite as dangerous. Oh my god. I'm so terrible at using the function keys. They're all the way over there. Yeah, sometimes it breaks my shield, and sometimes it doesn't, and I have no idea why. Okay, second phase. Oh my god. Oh my god. Like I said, the carbuncle are kind of why I have never beaten this boss. Oh my god. Paying attention to the ground is very difficult when I'm also trying to avoid enemies. Oh my god. Okay, everything's fine. I'm out of mana. This is fine. What? Oh my god. What? Okay, the hit comes so much later than it looks like it should. Oh, right. The boss spawn's already going when you come back. I forgot. Wait, why are the carbuncles here? Ugh. Once again, that hit comes so much later than it feels like it should. Oh my god. How do you dodge that? I don't understand. Get parried, idiot. Jesus. Sorry, that was very intense. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Need to get my bearings back real quick. Get parried. Okay, alacrity on Prism to give myself some time. Okay, block. Okay, we're good. Everything's fine. I feel like Prism is going to be instrumental in surviving this. Get parried. We're gaming now. Okay, no idea what the timing is on that one, to be honest. Now I wait for my mana to restore. I'm going to wait to use Prism until the second phase with my Alacrity, because Prism takes forever to cast for some reason. Or because Prism takes a ton of mana is what I meant to say. I don't know why I said it takes forever to cast. I mean, it kind of does, but... Oh, the shockwave. Okay. This is a bad time to use recovery, but it's fine. I have consumables. Oh my god. Oh no. Everything's fine. Okay, are the carbuncles not going to spawn? Because I will not be complaining if that's the case. Okay, Prism. And my Prism is gone already. Just to give an idea as to how much damage that actually does. Jesus Christ. This boss is rough. Okay. I need to get closer, but I don't want to be too close. Because the shockwave is extremely dangerous. Ugh. I should definitely use Prism again as soon as it restores. Oh my god. Wait. Okay. Everything's fine. Oh my god. Everything's fine. Okay, F4. Everything's fine. No. No, please. Anything but this. F4. Everything's fine. Just gotta be careful of the spires. That's the main issue. Oh my god, one more. Yes! I got really lucky with the carbuncles not spawning, but I think I would have been okay even if they had. Oh my god, that was really hard. Okay, so I'm gonna show off Vivian real quick because I think she's really cute. If the full game keeps up this difficulty curve, it will be very, very hard by the end, and I am so looking forward to it. Anyway, Vivian is over here. She is like 100% trans, not a doubt in my mind. You can like, you can give her items and then enchant them, and it'll get a random enchantment. You know, killer, lively, magical, manifold, manafont, whatever. Anyway, this was super fun. I highly recommend this game, even if you're just playing the itch demo to try it out. I am so excited for this full game to release. Yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all. And I especially want to thank Ratini, LA is my home, When's July, Nick Sensei, Krista, White Flame, Portwine, Tortuga Lagasta, V, Manarok, and Ryan Rickard for supporting the channel. I don't know how to end this.